All righty. We got to, unfortunately, got to item 3 before we realized that you guys weren't on. So we're just with the approval of the agenda, and we're going to add in item 18H. Just going to report from Chief on court funding, and this report will be included in the minutes of this meeting. And it was moved by City, second by Garth, and all in favor? Yes, thank you. Moving on to declaration of conflict of interest arising out of the minutes and matters listed on the agenda. And I'm going to have to declare conflict with item 12D, taxi plate refund, as I know the person who is doing. Moving on to item number 5, presentation, segregation, and public question. And we have a presentation from Peter Reed. Peter? Yes, sir, absolutely. Oh.
Oh, thank you for having me today. Peter Reed from Crime Stoppers of Great Bruce. Those of you who don't know me. I'll just give a very brief overrun of the program. Crime Stoppers is a cooperative partnership between the public, the media, and law enforcement, which provides the community a means to anonymously assist in solving crime and contributing to an improved quality of life in the community. As you may be aware, Crime Stoppers is not a police program. Crime Stoppers addresses the main issues that would prevent people from reporting crime or giving more information, fear, and apathy. The fear aspect, they don't have to appear in court. No one will ever know they gave the information because it's all collected anonymously. The apathy, we give a reward. So, money talks. Crime Stoppers in Great Bruce started in 1987. We are a nonprofit charitable organization, which doesn't mean we are able to issue tax receipts if anyone cares to donate. We're governed by a civilian board of directors comprising of volunteers throughout Great Bruce counties. We have our office in Owen Sound, and we employ one employee who's our coordinator. If you're interested in making a tip to Crime Stoppers, you can do that by calling 1-800-222-TIPS, which is 8477. You can go on our website, cstip.ca, or you can download a secure app called the P3 Tips mobile app, and you can leave tips through there. Since 1987, in Graham Bruce alone, there's been 1,761 criminals arrested due to Crime Stoppers tips, over $50 million in drugs taken off the streets, 2,733 cases cleared, which is quite a record. And again, that's just for Great Bruce. Over the last couple of years, Crime Stoppers tips, again in Great Bruce alone, last 2 years, $625,190 worth of drugs taken off the street, over $300,000 of property recovered, and $213,000 in cash recovered. I'm here today to ask for some funding from the Owen Sound Police Service Board. We've approached the board before with no success. We're hoping for a little better turnout this time. One of the things I wanted to express with the board today was how some of the other Crime Stoppers programs in the area are funded in our neighboring regions here. And just to give you some example, I know the last time the funding was denied because the board wanted to keep the separation between the police service and Crime Stoppers. And that's not really the way any other boards function. I believe off the top of my head, the OPP provides a fully paid employee to about 25 of the Crime Stoppers programs in Ontario. I can give you an example. Waterloo Regional Police Service provides Crime Stoppers in Waterloo Region, office space, IT support, infrastructure, one administrative support person at 10% duty, who does not manage the tips. The tips are actually managed by a Waterloo Regional Police Service police coordinator who's seconded to the program full-time. The Crime Stoppers board pays the Waterloo Regional Police Service $5,000 annually for that. So the Waterloo is providing basically 1.1 people to the program. Not sure what a constable is making these days, but I'm sure it's more than $2,500. Lambton, there's 2 full-time coordinators paid by the board. However, the Sarnia Police Service Board contributes $21,000 annually to that program. London Middlesex has 2 full-time police coordinators. One is paid by the London Police Service, the other one paid by the Middlesex OPP. Guelph Wellington has 2 police coordinators. One is paid for by the Guelph Police Service Board and one by the Wellington OPP. Huron Perth is a full-time OPP coordinator. Simcoe Dufferin Muskoka is full-time coordinator as an OPP officer. The office administrator is paid, who doesn't handle tips, is paid by the board. Barrie Police Service provides annual funding to the program as they receive the lion's share of the tips, but they don't provide the coordinator, that's an OPP officer. In Grey Bruce, we have basically 17 different municipalities and entities that we deal with. Asking one to cover everything, of course, is simply it's not fair. All we're asking is for each municipality to cover a portion. What we're looking for from each one is $2,500 per year. And if we could get a multi-year commitment, that would be phenomenal. But I'd take this year. COVID's been hard. It's been hard on every charity out there, not just us. Holding our fundraising events has been a struggle. We got back in last year with our golf tournament, and we raised a record $30,000 on it. Again, we're hoping for another big year this year, and we're going to get bringing up some more events. One of the changes is the CRA is starting to frown upon charities that are fundraising often with lottery, and they're starting to say, well, that's starting to appear like a business, not a charity. So we've got to move away fully from our lottery funds within the next year or two. At this point, we can't just say no to the lottery funding. We'd be bankrupt without it. So that's pretty well where we're sitting this year. We have 1 full-time employee, as I mentioned, and Drew has been with us for over 25 years now. I'm sure most of the officers sitting at this table have either spoken to him at some point or know him on some level. He's very good at what he does, and got another few years with him, we hope. So that's pretty much it. We're looking for a commitment of $2,500 from the Youngstown Police Service today. And again, that's the amount we're asking all the other police service boards and municipalities that aren't represented by a police service board for the same. Is there any questions?
Any questions from the board? I think there was a question about Section 10 boards. How are they handled?
Which I'm not familiar with the term.
Oh, OPP boards like Georgian Bluffs or
we do the same presentation with them. They're going to be asked to give the same amount.
And the same thing with the other than Section 31, the other municipalities like Saugeen Shores, West Cray, and Hanover.
Yes, exactly. And even North Bruce doesn't actually have a police service board for some reason. Not sure the reasoning behind that.
5, I think.
Yeah, so they've we approached their council and they have donated to the program. So I would make one request to this board as well. When you make your decision on this, could you please actually inform us before you inform the media? Because last time I just received a phone call from one of our local media outlets.
Oh, really?
I never heard a response from the board.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, Peter. Thank you. On to item number 6, confirmation of the public session of February 22nd, 2023. A motion for that? See, thank you. Seconder? All right, thank you. All in favor? Carried. This is arrival of the public session minutes on February 22nd, 2023. Hearing none. correspondence received. There was one item thanking the chief for the work we've been doing with the community. It's nice. It was delayed because of the didn't forward. That's we got it. On to number 9, chairman's report, zone 5. I attended Garth Pearson attended the zone 5 meeting on March 7th, 2023. There was 27 people in attendance. There was a lengthy presentation on bail reform by Gary Melanson, legal representative for OAPC. He provided some background leading up to Greg Challenge's death, and then an overview of almost every other police service, what they're doing to support bail reform at provincial and federal levels. He anticipates that changes could be coming as soon as a few months, or constitutional changes may delay that considerably. Karen Redmond from the Waterloo Police Service presented their motion on bail reform, and this proposal was supported by the Zone 5 group, and that motion will be forwarded on to the federal and provincial governments. And I also provided a copy of that motion, not only the Waterloo regional motion, but also the motion that was presented at Zone 5. That you probably should take a look at. Their motion is requesting all of the members of Zone 5 to take it before their board and to support it, and they would then forward it on to the federal and provincial contacts that were provided. Any discussions, thoughts on support of this motion by Waterloo Region? Gareth.
Mr. Chair, I was delighted to hear that proposal from the Waterloo people, and I think it was supported by everyone at the meeting at the end, not understanding how they would go back to their board and present it. But I think it is a very meaningful resolution. I think it's something very easy to support. And if we've had a chance, I would like to move that we approve of the motion and have it passed on to the federal and provincial governments as a motion from this board as well.
Okay. Any other discussion on it before I ask for seconder? A seconder for Garth's motion, Cindy? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. There's also some discussion surrounding the CSPA. Its implementation date. I think we're looking at it's a representative from the ministries. Oh, it's probably going to be June of this year. That will actually be the time, but probably not in force date until early 2024. There was a fair bit of a discussion around some of the new regulations and supporting CSPA, and I think we're up to about 23. They're up to 23, and we're going to total of 50 by the time it's over. So between June and early next year, there's a lot of work to be done at the drafting cases on that. I think that was all. There's an item brought forward by Ian McSweeney from Orangeville, and they're working on a new service standard template that they're going to be sharing with the group. And he also talked about the issues of transparency and public disclosure on police services websites. Wayne, did I miss anything that you wanted to add to that?
No, Board Chair, I think you caught everything pretty well. Thank you.
Okay. Backup. Moving on to governance, just wanted to give you a little update on progress of the bylaw policy review plan. At our last meeting, we talked about setting up a link that you could all access the policies and bylaws on. Unfortunately, IT is wrapped up with some other projects, but unable to set up that link. So what I did is on March 16th, I delivered to each of you a thumb drive containing all policies and bylaws, and a letter from consultants working on it, basically provided a roadmap as to how you could go through the policies and bylaws, and specifically highlighting those areas where the board would need to make a decision. One of the things that looked at, rather than putting having a meeting with our regular meeting, adding that to agenda, probably have a special board meeting the 15th of May, and devote that special meeting to solely review the policies and bylaws at that point in time. in the hopes of taking those to our May 24th meeting, where we can actually get them approved, and then we can look at posting into our website. And that'll be done in conjunction with some other changes that we hope to make to our website. Any thoughts? Discussion, comments from the board? Great, moving on to Dr. Bishop, introduce the motion.
One second.
Yeah, just give a second. Oh, perfect. I just do a fair bit of reading on that thumb drive that I sent him.
I think you try to find it. You're not the opposite.
Yeah. Moving on to
Mr. Chair, thank you. I'm going to start with the criminal investigations branch report. We had a sexual assault commenced last month with a 13-year-old female victim from a male suspect still under investigation. Received anonymous information regarding living and working conditions at 4 local retirement homes. CIB ended up connecting with the law enforcement agencies and partners protecting seniors. And as a result, that information has been forwarded off to the Retirement Regulatory Authority, Canadian Revenue Agency, and Labor Board for follow-up. We had a couple of fires last month, a couple of arsons to 2 residential properties. It is still under investigation with the Office of the Fire Marshal. These ones do not look like they're random. They were targeted for a particular reason I won't get into at this point, but still under investigation. For quite some time, back from October 2022, we've been carrying on an investigation regarding a victim that had been pushed down a flight of stairs and sustained very serious injuries. So last month, a 62-year-old Long Sound resident was arrested, charged, and he's been held in custody in relation to a lengthy investigation included. Criminal Investigations Branch assisted uniform with a robbery occurrence which happened in an Long Sound bank. Male got a small amount of currency and fled, was arrested approximately 3 hours later in the downtown core. So that's a little bit of a downgrade. I think our bank robbery before that was about 20 minutes. We just got made it 3 hours. So we're running 2 for 2 on our bank robberies. So that's good to see. We had a request from Waterloo Regional Police to assist with a domestic event. Our officers ended up attending an on-sound address, arresting the person, and we conducted interviews on behalf of the Waterloo investigators. We've had another sudden death, 28-year-old male, towards the end of February. It is believed to be a drug overdose, which is putting us up to, I believe, 3 so far for this year, with 1 unconfirmed. It could be at 4, but we're waiting for toxicology. And finally, sexual assault. We took over a historic sexual assault investigation, which was begun by a uniform officer, which also continues to be under investigation with a number of other identified victims that are being followed up with. We've had Detective Constable Martin away on the course for most of the course and holidays for most of the month. He assisted OPP with some data extraction from a cellular device regarding this person investigation. And we're also doing some work with the sex offender registry with a couple of non-compliant offenders. So on the drug overdose information, it's currently listing 3, but I think we would likely have that move up to 4. Get some more information on it. Again, we're trending a little bit higher than we did last year, which we're some tabs on. And I've been dealing with public health on some of those notifications on behalf as well. So we have a good working relationship with them as well. Moving on to the auxiliary unit. We did use of force, our annual use of force training with the auxiliary, so 4.5 hours were the defensive tactics, search, handcuffing, and general conditioning, which is the annual review. We have a number of our auxiliary members helping out with the Boldest Night of the Year fundraiser event, raising money for Safe and Sound. And we've stepped up the number of ride-alongs. We're getting more of our auxiliary unit back in participating, 63 hours committed to ride-alongs. We're also currently in the middle of we're just doing background investigations to probably bring on either 6 or 7 new auxiliary members. So we've got a number of resignations and people that just never got back to participation after COVID. So we hope to get that training up and running probably in the next month. And we also had another auxiliary member who resigned this month. So total number of hours for the auxiliary, 130 in February. So it's good numbers. And we have the court report. Court did a lot of outreach stuff this month in terms of meeting with a number of groups. So Sydenham Condominium Association, they met with to discuss a number of concerns there. They've also been working with Safe and Sound regarding some issues that they've been having with some of the surrounding businesses and some complaints going on there. Public Health was also meeting with Public Health in regards to some different things we work with Public Health. For example, provision of sharps containers to downtown businesses to deal with some of the discarded needle issues. They had a meeting with Grey County Housing as well to speak about partnerships and programs. And they've also met with probation and parole officers because they're trying to get a project together regarding high risk probation and people with respect to reaching their probation. Quite a bit of foot patrol went on. We had 63.5 hours of foot patrol done by Corps. They assisted CIB with an aggravated assault, as well as a number of search warrants that were done in regards to the arson investigation that was mentioned earlier. Corps has been assisting with some sex offender registry compliance checks. There was an armed robbery arrest. I spoke about this a little bit last month, but Corps, while on foot patrol, just happened to be in the area of a local convenience store when it was robbed, and we're right there and able to locate and arrest and help without incident and recover the weapon that was used during the armed robbery. And as another example of some success with foot patrol, Corps was doing foot patrol at a West Side apartment complex and heard what they thought was an assault being committed on a female inside an apartment. They observed a man running from the apartment, were able to stop him and investigate, and as a result, he was arrested and charged with domestic assault. Also on a number of outstanding OPP warrants as well. So another good news for the step up on the foot patrol. They ran a ride program and also a snowmobile ride program in February as well. And like everyone else, they are doing their best to get their policy review training done. So that's taking a number of hours from us as well. Absent of that, that's the report.
Thank you, Fletcher. We got to which one is Dr. Keating.
So I'll start out with the collision statistics for the month of February. We had 43 collisions, 14 on the east side, 9 on the west side, and 10 in parking lots. 5 of them were failure to remain collisions. 17 of them were referred to our collision reporting center, and 16 investigated by our officers. Moving on to community services. As usual, Jason was very busy. Jason looks after the social media for the police service, so he's doing several things there with putting out things to the public on winter driving conditions, some of the traffic enforcement programs that we were doing, cyber tips, grandparent scams, which have reared their head again. And also promoting coldest night of the year. We had a team from the police service participate in that on February 25th. He attended the Community of Youth Officers Conference. He was involved with the Region Branch 6 with their 10-year bingo and data destruction event, planning for that, and that happened just this past weekend. Successful again. Working with the Alpha Street Resource Center. He gave presentations at Georgian College with their community integration through cooperative education program. He was at East Ridge and Hillcrest, delivering presentations on social media awareness and internet safety, as well as St. Dominic Savio, and also involved in presentations with the Old Police Academy. And also a spot on the local media about promoting our police academy and result. And there's some pictures there from the police academy, as well as banner or mural that was done by the students at Alexander School, staff at OSPSB. Moving on to lost hours in training, we had 14 members report sick or injured during the month for a total of 208 hours. We had 3 members on the CID or on WSID for a total of 320 hours. For training, we had 2 officers, our new officers that were with our coach officers. We had 1 member attend the investigative interviewing course in Brantford, 1 member on the major case management course, and 1 member on the CISO informant development course at IFC. Moving on to frontline patrol reports, we had 187 HDA charges laid during the month, 29 compliances, 103 cautions, 126 criminal code charges, 44 POA or bylaw tickets issued. Those will be largely the snow bylaw, and 140 hours of foot patrol. For ride, we had 28 on-duty ride checks with 1,253 drivers checked, 17 breath tests administered, and we had 5 grant funded ride programs with 847 drivers checked and 9 breath tests administered. Combined statistics for ride, we had 33 hours of ride with 1,642 drivers checked, 12 HDA charges or warnings issued, and 1 driving charge. That concludes my report this morning.
Yes. I'm hearing some really good things about the police academy. I want to put my commendation to the service for putting it on. I say everything I hear is very positive.
Yeah, there was excellent feedback from the participants, and I think next time around we're going to get a whole lot more interest than we'll be able to satisfy for applications. But that's a good thing. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, exactly. When did the first class cadet graduate?
Wednesday. March. Yeah.
March. Yeah, and last week.
And is there another one scheduled?
We don't have the exact dates, but October, November will be the span for the fall. We'll run another one after summer months.
That's great. That's great. Moving on to Director Flynn.
Yeah. Again, I never seem to have much to mention on the board bylaw stuff. It all is consistent with previous years, and it's sort of ins and outs with taxis and adult entertainment. So there's nothing really to mention there. In terms of our courts, again, we're consistent with previous months, 945 hours of special counsel hours, which is relatively consistent as is the 50 persons in custody. So nothing outside of the ordinary there again. And lastly, on our bulk searches, 7,523 bulk searches in February of 2023. And Chief, I think we are still, well, that's I think reflective of still filling some of our cell monitor spots and that sort of thing. I would expect that will, it's still good numbers, but I expect that'll go up as we start to get a few more butts and chairs, with respect to cell monitoring and the data clerks as well.
Thank you, Inspector. Item number 14, report from Director of Corporate Services.
I can look after that. So consistent theme with the calls for service again in February, we had an increase in calls for service over the same month last year. So 1,372 calls for service compared to 169 February of last year. That marks just shy of a 16% increase in calls for service. And overall, this year so far, we've had just over 18% increase.
Wow, it's really going up. There are significant demands on our members that aren't going unnoticed. You're looking at 18% year to date. That's a significant increase, one that's not sustainable in the long term. The present resources.
Is there a magic percentage increase that we?
No, and thank goodness we have our analyst here so that we can start looking at some of the maybe drill down and get some of the root causes of what those calls for our service, what the increases are, what the time commitments are, those types of things that we haven't had the ability to do in the past. And then part of the operations plan is looking at how we do things and how we start doing things differently, and that's going to be one of the priorities is working on that. And thank goodness we have somebody here that can help us with it now.
All right, great. Moving on to item number 15, report from Director of Information Technology.
I can look after that one. So in information technology, we've been really busy working at our alternate site, preparing for the official launch of NG911 with Bell Canada and a number of our other vendors. So that should be good to go. It's supposed to be by the end of this month, and we still have 4 days, so that does end up happening. There's been a lot of work on quotations and discussions for a number of services that are looking for NG911 infrastructure as a service from our service. So that took a number of days, hours going for on-site visits across Ontario. The review of the business plan, the supervisory retreat, a lot of some work for the OSPS Communications Center renovations, data analytics, provisioning for strategic analyst, Mark. We're looking at trying to get access for a bunch of different things. There are also a number of updates that some of our customers in dispatch want that we've been looking at. Quotation for the cell upgrades, and then put in a new vehicle and transition that vehicle into the fleet for another purpose. So there's some work to be done. We've had some busy times.
Any questions for the chief on that report? Moving on to item number 16, financial reports.
So I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is we have somebody hired, or will be getting somebody hired for the temporary financial coordinator's position, and we will have reports. The bad news is there's no report this month because we haven't done any billing for any invoices out yet for the first quarter of the year. So anything that would be sent out wouldn't be reflective of what's the true costs are right now anyway.
Yeah. And that new person is Jeff Hawk.
Yeah, he'll be starting in the future at some point.
Did you get that, Jeff Hawk? All right, good. So I guess it'd be outstanding accounts. So yeah. Great. Moving on to item number 17, operating reports.
So my activities in February 2023. Spent some time with Moequidon for an e-waste sharing circle. Some time over at the city for the monthly strategic meeting. Gravers Poverty Task Force. There was a joint session with Grey County, the hospital, and No and Sound Police on homelessness and some of our hard to deal with situations where it's not an easy solution. We met with our partners there to try and come up with some alternatives and some ideas. Youth Substance Working Group, MHART reviewing and checking in on MHART. I participated and thanked the city for the opportunity to participate in equity, diversity, inclusion training. It was arranged through HR in the city. Some other meetings. There was a star table, the executive lead meeting, which was beneficial as we tried to reintegrate and put some effort behind that. A number of days and hours spent doing business planning, and we'll be presenting the operations plan on how that goes, and also significant hours in HR matters and screening and interviews as we try and fill some vacancies. Other than that, some of the other regular duties, including the financial duties and some time away.
Great. Moving on to item number 18A, the 2023-2026 operations plan.
All right, so we completed the operations plan. The board's had the opportunity to review the draft prior to the meeting, and we have a finished copy presenting to everyone and putting and posting online. I just really wanted to highlight and thank Mark for her work in bringing us all together and getting this moving and keeping it moving and getting it done. I think you'll find this year's report and this year's operations plan, or this session's operations plan, much more robust than in the past years. Having an expert come in and being able to help facilitate those sessions and get the input and take the meaningful contributions from both the citizens of the community and the members has really helped. And I think the board chair as well, thank you for your participation in all the sessions. It really helps with putting a good quality package together. I think we have a good solid direction moving forward for the next 4 years, providing the act comes in as it's anticipated. If not, we may have to update that, but the plan is that it's our business plan, our operations plan moving forward for the next 4 years. And really, we wanted to highlight the fact that we're concentrating on the areas of community safety, community well-being, our members, and sustainability. I think those are the 4 biggest things in our service and in the policing that we offer. And I think we're focused and ready to go in the right direction, and thank the board for their work. And now it comes down to our end and having to put all that into play and get those results. And Mark's work isn't done there. She's continuing to keep on us, and now that I'm back from holidays, I'm sure I'll be having some work to do to keep up to date on moving this forward and putting it.
Yes, Mark did a fantastic job of putting the surveys together. I guess this year was the more responses than past year. We had over 400 now. It's only 200 the year before, something like that. Right? Even with the percentage of responses from the members themselves to the survey, that was. I think I brought this up before, but I'll do it in public at this point in time. Ian, I'm wondering if it would be appropriate for Mark to do a presentation at council on the community report or survey, just a high level of what the community had said and what they talked about. Or would that be something that we leave for another time?
There's my mute button. Yeah, but it won't be in April.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be. It's always a good idea to bring stuff to public and to council for sure.
Because it is something the public participated in, and I'm sure a lot of people that did the survey would like to hear back on what other people had said too, to see if they were sort of in the ballpark or not. It's amazing. I think they were pretty good. So maybe sometime in May we could schedule that if that works for the chief and Mark.
Yeah, I'll sit down with Tim and Brianna and set up a time and provide 2 copies of the operations plan for the members of council and city staff as well.
Yes.
And we'll sit down and we'll come up and present on both the results and the operations plan, so that they know where we're focusing our attention.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, great. Moving on to item number B, the 2023 budget.
Yeah. So the 2023 budget, everything's been done and finished and calculated, and we were slightly over budget at the end of a number of transfers. the city now working with city finance. And then we were fortunate enough to receive $700,000 provincial funding related to purchases from April 1st, 2022 to March 31st, 2023. A number of those purchases that we made were in that budget. So I sat down with the finance over with Kate Allen at the city, and we've gone over a number of those purchases. So we will be coming in under budget, and we're just trying to determine the exact number of the transfers to finalize that number and take on some of the costs from last year and move them forward.
Great. That's great. That's good. Any questions or comments for Chief Ambrose on that? Moving on to 18C, and I think we've already dealt with that earlier, the draft motion from Waterloo Police Services Board. Moving on to the next item, for the conflict of interest. So, Vice Chair, I'll turn it over to you. I'll plan it with some ball.
Thank you, Chief. Like to bring us up on where we are with that.
Yeah, so this is a request from Sam Himma.
Yes.
So Sandra Himba, who is operating as an agent for Bayshore Taxi, and renewed her license for 2023 to drive, and no longer is wishing to participate and was looking for a consideration in regards to a refund or a partial refund of the $250 agent registration fee. She was advised that the Police Services Board bylaw in relation to taxis and ride shares doesn't cover anything specific to that, and then there was no guarantees that the board would approve a partial or full refund. It was brought to the board for consideration given her request.
Thank you. Anybody have comments on that? Wish to comment on that? Ian?
He said no.
So need. The comments, I guess there was two opportunities. One is to indicate that it's been paid and it is received, and there has been no other reason than the person wants to retire from that service for receipt of monies back with respect to fees paid.
So yeah, I guess the board decision would be whether to provide any refund, a partial refund, or how you wish to proceed on that moving forward.
Do you wish me to have a further comment on how to proceed with that request?
Sure. I feel like there should be a partial refund to that, but given in mind the effort and the work that goes in by staff and putting in the application, and also the individual did use it for 2 months' time. I think keeping in mind a partial refund be appropriate.
So are you going to recommend that we provide a partial refund? Perhaps half the amount, and the consideration prior to developing the policy to consider this as the first request for medical reason for retirement. Other comments? Your Worship, if you wish to second that motion?
Yeah, I would second that motion. I'm not sure that I heard it, but I would suggest maybe 6 months. I'm not sure if that was the exact motion. And I want to be clear that we're not setting a precedent unless we, put together a policy of how to deal with this in the future. But I would certainly second a motion for refunding up to 6 months or half the fee.
And thank you. So we have a motion on the board, moved and seconded to provide a partial or 6 month return of the fee for that license fee, which I understand was $250.
Correct.
So, we should vote all those in favor?
Yeah.
Thank you. The motion is carried to provide a refund and to also, with the motion is to look at developing a policy to develop with future requests that they present.
Thank you. Be back.
Thank you, guys.
The motion was carried, provide up to 6 month due date. It's given that the was partly used for 2 months at least. Consideration for the costs. And that we develop a policy to handle further future requests.
Who's going to develop the policy? Who's going to draft?
You look at me.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll give you a hand where I can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Update on signing authority at the bank. We'll sure that Chief can give us a background on that.
Yeah, so it needs to be brought up during the meeting and part of the minutes that we don't often write a lot of checks directly from the board or the police account. Most things get handled through the city staff and through the finance of the city, but there is an account that needs signing. And this came to my attention that a number of the individuals who have signing authority are no longer they're employed or on the board. And so we need to update that signing authority, and we need to make a motion and pass the resolutions to who that should be on that account. Currently, the last check for the board was signed by 2 members who aren't on the board because now I did consult with the chair and went through the city, but it's probably not the best practice, and we need to update that, and they need that there in the minutes so that they can make those changes.
Right. Who are you recommending that should be signing authority?
So the current individuals that are no longer employed. The motion should be that anybody that's no longer with the police service or part of the board should be removed from the signing authority. And then the new individuals would be subject to your decision, but I would suggest our financial person, myself, one or both inspectors, and then but it should be somebody from the board and somebody from the police service that signs as opposed to one or the other. So that's up to you who you want to put on from the board side.
I guess to start with the guy on the screen first. Ian, who would you like to see given signing authority?
Well, I would suggest the chair because you spend the most time there and it's the most convenient, and you're really the most responsible or hold the most responsibility for us. So.
Second that motion.
And so then I guess myself and the police chief.
Correct.
And a backup probably on both.
On the financial coordinator. So probably the chair and the vice chair.
Yeah.
And then the chief and the financial coordinator.
And an inspector.
And an inspector.
Just because the roles are currently up in the air.
So there's sort of 5 of them there. So any 2 of the 5. No, not any 2 of the 5.
And
Be 1 from the board and 1 from the service.
I would say any 2 of the 5, but the practice would be that one board and 1 for the service.
Correct. Is that okay, Ken? All right. Good. All right. We got to,
We vote on that?
oh, yes, sorry. First, second of it, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Item number F. These are portable radios for Ukraine.
So it was mentioned briefly at the last meeting that our radio provider has been refurbishing some old end-of-life radios here and providing fresh batteries or refurbished batteries and sending them over to assist in the efforts, both relief efforts and probably other efforts over in the Ukraine. Once they leave our custody, there's no guarantees what they're used for. The discussion the last batch of radios they sent over, so they were going to be used for relief efforts and trying to maintain ambulance and such, but I don't think there's any way we can guarantee that. But the normal way to get rid of them end of life would be through a government auction or electronics recycling, if they weren't part of this request. I have a list of radios that are out of date, that are out of that we wouldn't be using anymore and we would be getting destroyed or sold. Their value is somewhat minimal because after we're done with them on the front line, then they get distributed to our auxiliary members. And then after the next round of radios come in for the front line, those go to the auxiliary members. So these are actually several several iterations old. Thank you. So they're not a modern, and they pose no significant value.
Would you like a motion, Mr. Chair, to buy these radios through the Ukraine relief fund?
Any more discussion on it? Seconder for Garth's motion?
I would.
Yeah, thank you. All in favor? Carried.
I have a copy of the serial numbers and what videos they are to provide, and I provide that to Kayla already so that she can put those with minutes.
Yes, perfect. All right, good. Moving on to NG. We service for website. And did you want to give us a quick update on the Gale River?
Just give me one moment.
I think we were looking at doing some updates. First of all, we're going to look at what we really had on the website and what was current date, what needed to be updated, and what additional items that we need to put on there as a result of what Ian Sweeney was doing in Orangeville. It was on 5 meeting. And also there's some requirements coming up in the CSPA that I think has to be also on the website. So we want to make sure that much transparency and in preparation for the CSPA where possible. And I think Kayla had started on looking at something like that and trying to stall long enough that she can find her email that talks about it.
Okay, I had emailed Chris to see if we could get a list of what was on our website to compare it to other board websites. He got back to me with regards to our website, and the website runs on a common web platform. It's created by a web developer company who we no longer are with. The agreement has been terminated. Each section is basically a template that has content inside. It's highly customizable if someone knows web programming. We have a skill set in the house due to minor adds, changes, updates, but it's not cost effective for the OSM Police IT to have an entire redesign, as our staff members are focused on NG 911 at the present time. And providing security, network, and dispatch infrastructure. Web program is typically its own skill set, which is commonly outsourced to a vendor. For that, we would provide temporary access to a vendor if we were to obtain one to make the changes once we've seen what is requested that we need on the website or taken off the website.
Okay, good. So I guess that that's sort of the end road, the ending of it. So I guess what we need to do, first of all, is to find out what we've got, what we don't need, what we do need, and then put that together and get a quote from the vendor as to what should be there, and try and make it as simple as possible to update with. If there's a new message comes out from the police chief on an annual basis with a new annual report, that it's easy that we can do that in-house rather than trying to farm out each time that's required. So. Right, maybe we'll take a look at by the May meeting to have an idea of what we might have on the website currently. And if there's any gaps and replacements, just sort of a general. Right, moving on to court security funding. This report will actually appear in the minutes of this meeting, unfortunately. Bremlin's got a hold of it and include it.
And there are two other reports as well, for your fiscal audit and the second employment report.
Right.
Annual report. So, court security and prisoner transportation program has been confirmed for 2023 and the funding received from the government. The city will receive $325,610 of the program. That's down from $373,648 in 2022. Total cost of courts, city wants out for court security and prisoner transportation budget $660,000. The total grant increased by almost $50,000 and the shortfall wasn't budgeted. So we'll make arrangements for that within the year. Just the background and the report provides a background on how it started, when it started, and the amount that's allocated each year. And it was high, went from the highest in 2019 at $454,000. It started to decrease. Some of that has to do as a result of COVID and the fact that we have part-time employees and their hours were reduced accordingly when the courts weren't as busy as they are now. And so we're paying the price of 2 years back for our staffing costs now, as we see that court moving back in person. One of the issues that was discussed is that in 2021, City Council received the final report from the Hanover Owen Sound Task Force from County Council, and it was established to look at the challenges, identify opportunities and challenges, and to address those challenges. And one of the things that was identified in that report was the court security funding and how that is covered by the taxpayer of Owen Sound. I haven't seen anything change on that, but that's to be discussed still. And so the current funding is $50,000 less than we had anticipated. And so we'll have to work within that during the year.
Yeah, this is court funding is a topic that's come up a fair bit, which the city has to pay for court services for other municipalities. I don't know how long it's going to take to come to some resolution on it. It needs to happen for, especially for the taxpayers of Owen Sound Council. Okay, moving on to I guess the last one was under new business. Do we want to deal with the Crime Stoppers request at this point to a motion? Want to do that? Eric, what's your feeling?
I just wonder if it's fair to acknowledge their request, this lead date for 1 year, and that's what to consider, because I'm not sure they're going to get money from all of the partners, the 17 people that they're reaching out to, but I started recognizing their needs that I hope that we approve 1 year request, 250,000, and that perhaps indicate to them that they should be searching other sources as well to perhaps insurance companies or big businesses here who benefit from their work. I'd take that motion.
Okay. Since that's being recorded, it's like 2,500, not 250,000. It's all right.
It's 100, sorry.
Ian, comments?
I will second that. Recognizing, as Mr. Reed just said, that this is supposed to be independent from the police to give protection to the people. I think we want to be a little careful as to how far we go into that before it becomes a conflict. I think before they come back in another year, I would want to report back on what other municipalities around the region have actually paid into it. So we get a feel for if we're carrying most of the freight and others aren't, or if everyone's contributing, and it'll give us a better feel of whether we're contributing sort of the right share when we know what others are contributing. So I think we want to feel like we're being treated equally, or our taxpayers are being treated equally with those of the surrounding townships, et cetera. So I will second it. I'd want more information in a year's time if they come back. I would certainly encourage them to go to those big stores that potentially are the victims. I think that was the original plan when Charlie Fitch brought it in, who was the manager of, I'm going to say Food City, but I'm not sure what it was called at that time. But the idea was that the local businesses would contribute because it was them that was kind of facing the biggest shrinkage and loss in their inventories. So that's certainly where I would hope that the majority of funding comes from, and encourage the agency to go back out to the public and try and raise money.
Just a question around that, municipalities who participated. Do we want to just focus on just municipalities, or as Crime Stoppers provides us with a list of those that contributed during 2023? Would that make more sense? And do we want them to provide it, or do we want independent?
Yeah, probably, gee, be kind of nice to see their financial statements, but it's maybe both. The list of contributors, their financial statements, in a sense, if we're going to start, well, I hate to think that we're setting a precedent that we're getting into this and that we're guaranteed we're going to keep doing this, because, there should be a one-off that it's not guaranteed next year. I don't want to give that impression, but.
Right. So we want to see who else is contributing and whether we're the outrider or.
Yeah.
Any comments?
Yeah, I think I agree with Ian and Volker. Like it's given the numbers that was going to be presented today, they are huge numbers, and I think. But again, like you want value for your taxpayers' money, right? So I would definitely support the motion that we try for a year.
And I think the other services that included in what they were providing as far as manpower and things like that, they're large services.
Absolutely.
That have a way outside of what we've got. We don't have extra bodies kicking around, especially with an 18% increase in the first of the year with calls for service. So I don't think we can do that. We might be able to provide some funding, and I think we need to know who else is providing the funding, and if we're the only one that's not, or anyone else that should be. Ian, did you have a comment there? No, okay.
Nothing further.
Right, so Ian seconded, and we provide them with $2,500 for this year only, not to set a precedent, and we would like to see a list of donators for the fiscal 2023 at the end of January next year. Is that captured pretty much as far as exactly? All in favor? Gary? Okay. Moving on to annual reports from Inspector Spoon.
So one of the reports that we provide to the board is on property that comes under the possession of the service in a vault audit. So a vault audit was completed. The condition of the vault is clean and orderly. There's separate sections within the vault, different sections for firearms, drugs, valuables, alcohol, general property. And we also have a large property storage area in our garage. Random sampling was conducted on all the areas, and there was also cross-referencing checked on our records management system. There was minor issues identified with tagging and purging, which is an ongoing thing. We acquire a lot of property here at the service, and we have to keep property going. It has to be disposed. Those were identified, and it's being addressed. Overall, the condition of the vault and our property storage is in good
order. Are we still receiving a large number of bicycles?
Yes, absolutely.
Is there any way, I thought of this, is there any way to make the community aware that they are here? There are a few ways to contact the police to see if they are here. I'm surprised that we keep collecting them and yet nobody claims them.
Yeah, and we have done that in the past, and we don't seem to get any relief from it. We cleared out our large property storage in about October, November past, and we're already fully in. So
Now, when you say cleared it out, what did you do? Send it to police auction or?
Yes, so all the bicycles and large property items that can be sold are sent to an auction service and receives the proceeds.
In our operations plan, one of the things that we've put down for the next 4 years is to do a comprehensive review of all of our types of calls and that sort of thing, and bicycles and property collection is one of those things that we'll be looking at more closely, just in terms of what services we'll be providing going into the future and whether there's alternatives for it as well.
As I understand it, we receive value from the service as opposed to our old practice of trying to have an auction here. Selling them.
Yeah, it's way too much work. It's cost prohibitive by the time you put all the staffing hours into it. This is much simpler that we use it. They do an online auction. They come and gather everything. They take a percentage and it goes on an online auction that gets dealt with.
Ian,
Is there a charitable group in this town that would want to run that auction that we could share the proceeds with versus somebody else? I don't know. Yeah. First of all, I'm always shocked that we get more bikes than we get reported thefts. But I would think you'd have to report the theft to get the insurance claim, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm just thinking it's there might be people in the community at an income level that could afford a bike from an auction that maybe don't know about it. And it might be something that a charitable group could benefit from if they ran it and put in all the manpower and looked after all of it, and we'd take a cut of that or something. But just a thought.
Yeah, I'm not sure that what the contract is with the service that we currently provide. We'd have to look at that. And then there's the issue of what happens if it doesn't sell, and how do they get rid of things. I mean, they obviously somebody will give them something for everything, but there's a lot of things that if we're looking at that as a service as to what gets brought in and whether or not it is actually of value, and or whether it goes up to a scrap metal bin at the city yards. But we can look into that a little bit more. But certainly the method right now is working much smoother than what I gather from the past.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very labor intensive if you have to set up an auction and get the people there, and then absolutely what you say about what do you do with the materials if they don't get sold, and then we're dealing with it again. And this way he comes once we call him and everything's gone.
Well, it's ironic that we just had back-to-back reports with Crime Stoppers looking for cash. Maybe that's something we look at for in another year, that instead of paying cash, we give them a load of bikes for their efforts, and maybe they can do better than 2,000 or 2,500. But it's hard throwing out fresh ideas when we're already in process. But as we look forward to next year, I think we should look at different alternatives.
sure.
Yeah.
Maybe part of that review is to find out how much we actually got from the auctions in past years. Just if we're talking $150, it really doesn't seem a lot of work. $1,500, maybe. Just to take a look into what we're dealing with. Do you have another year-end report?
No, that's all.
Okay, Dave?
I have secondary employment. There's very little to see there. We have, there was only one request that went to the chief last year. It was for our executive assistant. She works casually, doing some occasional real estate work. But the report doesn't capture, as we don't have members annually have to renew with the chief. So in past years, we have other members here that do. For example, we have some part-time special constables of the courts that also are employed as security at the hospital and things like that. So there are still members that are doing that, but they would be from previous years. So the only new ones came in as listed there.
All right, I think that was all the reports that we were going to have.
Yep.
So having completed all of the items on the agenda, I'm going to turn the public meeting at 11:22. Thank you, everyone. And for those second.
Shall have to be.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yes, we received a request for a secondhand shop application. It's going to be called Hawk Stars. Looking at the report, I don't see anything, issues, all of the necessary background checks that have been completed, and as I understand they're very comprehensive, and a number of people have reviewed it, including the chief. And there's not appear to be any concerns with approval for the secondhand shop application. Does anyone have any comments or would like to make a motion for approval of this license application? Garth moves the application. Have a seconder. Cindy, thank you. All in favor? Carried. That was it. Anything else? Okay. All right. Now I'll terminate the meeting at 11:23, I guess. Okay. Thank you very much. And we'll be sending out copies electronically to council and there. I'll send you a copy as well, Wayne, just so you have it. And Tim as well. Okay, for those people that are going to join us on the second part of the closed session, you would have to log off here, log on to the Zoom call. Yellow center. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much, folks. Take care. Have a great week.
Yeah,
Thanks, Mike.